shadow of death, and I fear no evil because I'm blind to it all.
Hey, what's up guys? You're watching Wayfinder. My name is Rocky, and in today's topic I'm going to be talking about how to get women as an introvert, how to find that high value woman for yourself and attract her. This is going to be from my personal experience transitioning from a beta male simp or a noob all the way to a sigma male and beyond. Let me start off with this. As I said before in one of my previous videos, the best game for you guys, the best game is no game. You know, there's truth to what your mom said when you asked her, oh, how do I attract a girl? I have a crush on this girl, no. And your mom said, just be yourself. It's true. But the weakness here, the caveat is, when you're young, when you're like in your early 20s or younger, do you really even know yourself? Everyone, we have potential, but did you live up to your full potential? If not, then that tip of being yourself is not entirely true. And sometimes people do pretend. That's why they have this thing called game. So they pretend they use tips and tricks taken from YouTube or taken from these pickup artists. They may work, yes, but as I always say, short-term solutions result in short-term results. You may get the girl, yes, but no one can pretend for too long. So instead, stick to the long term. Become the man. Reach your full potential. But then again, it is important to understand now that you're not going to be every woman's type. That's a fact. Not all women will like you. But if you do try to maximize your potential and you exude this essence of the sigma, of the hyper masculine introvert, you will for sure get your fair share of women. Trust me on that. So let me segue into my personal experience, and if you want to follow, you can follow, but if you don't want to follow, everything's going to be written down in the timestamps below on the scroll bar. So if you don't have enough time, just skip ahead to whichever part that you want. But if you want to stay on, then stay on. So I began as a beta male. As I said in the beginning of this video, everyone starts from somewhere. Everyone is a noob. And if you were young and you saw like other guys were getting women or young kids were getting girls, usually, if they're good, it's just beginner's luck. And they themselves they don't even know what they're doing to actually get the women. And you, as you're a young kid who hasn't fully maximized your potential, you got to build that potential because you're starting out from zero. So there's this debate that used to go on of, are sigma males made or are they born? Personally, I believe that sigma males could be both. But I do believe that it's more sigma males are made. They are like crystallized under the furnace of life. There's such a thing as, there's a difference between nature and nurture, and both of these things will impact how you turn out and how you develop. Nature is what you're born with, your genetics, and nurture is how you are brought up, your upbringing, the social relationships that you have throughout life, and other environmental factors that impact your development as a person. And so even if you're born with the sigma male traits, you may somehow, because of the nurture, you become an alpha male or you become a beta male. And sometimes you can see a beta male by nature, all of a sudden because he went through a lot of hard times and he pushed through it, he becomes an alpha male or a sigma male because of the nurture. So sigma males are both born and made, or both are born or made. So let's go to my personal story and my growth from beta male to sigma male. So I started as a beta male. Why? Because the earliest recollection that I can remember of a relationship, this was not even a relationship, was when I had a crush in primary school on a Vietnamese girl. And long story short, I asked my good friend, to tell her that I liked her. I asked my friend to tell her that I liked her. And then me, the beta simp, I went and hid inside a tunnel in the playground. I hid inside. I was like, I told my friend to tell her that I liked her. After like, what? It must have been like 30 seconds. Her head popped in the tunnel and she said, ew, I don't like you. What the hell are you doing? No, don't talk to me anymore. And then my heart broke And you see, the lesson that I learned there was the primary lesson that I learned there, that was you gotta read the girl first to tell her, to break her the news. You gotta warm her up. And that's the thing, I never warmed her up to anything. I just gave her the news and she's like, oh, I didn't even know that you existed. And the second mistake was that I didn't tell her directly. I told my friend to do it, so she possibly saw me as a guy with no balls. So me as a young kid, because I didn't know what was going on, I couldn't explain it, and I had this massive failure already in the beginning. At that young age, I had this sort of minor trauma, and that kind of stuck with me for a few years, until I matured enough to realize one key thing. I was raised on Disney movies. And I just want to tell you guys, forget the Disney stories, forget the Disney narrative, because that's a bunch of bullshit. There's no such thing as a happily ever after, and they make it super easy, and it's usually from the woman's point of view. The guy is usually a secondary character, or he's the dude that the girl wants to get with in the end. The guy's like Prince Charming, he's already made, he's already a prince, he already has the dough. Beauty and the Beast, he's already made, he already has the castle, he's already made. One of the stories that I think would be applicable to the growth of a man is like Hercules, because Hercules, we saw him start from a young kid, and then he's growing, and then he trained, he put his goal over everything else of his purpose. His purpose was to become a hero, and that is the type of story that I could resonate with. But unlike most guys, unlike every guy, we don't have superhuman strength. So then again, it's kind of disqualified. It's easier for him to do it. He's a god. Even Aladdin, for example. Aladdin, yeah, started out as a poor kid, but then he managed to get a palace. He managed to get the princess. How? Through a genie in a lamp. In what society, in what real world are we gonna see a genie in a lamp? So forget Disney stories, because the men are always already made. Therefore, the solution is that men have to be built. That was the realization that I came to. The reason why it's not, this growth is not shown in Disney movies, or in movies in particular, before the girl comes, is because usually it's like working out, or doing the business, or getting the empire. These things are usually very monotonous, they're a routine, they are boring, and they're not sexy. Growth is not sexy, but you have to build yourself as a man. It's like a clay pot. Clay pot is nice in the end, but then it began as like a mush of clay that the potter had to sculpt and take his time to fashion into a pot and then paint. Those things are not sexy. You get your hands dirty. That's why I said you can follow your mom's advice of being yourself, but if yourself is just like a pipsqueak, you gotta build yourself up. So that's why the importance of inner value, and that's where I started. So already at that young age, from primary school to high school, I didn't have any like relationship experience or whatever, because I was focusing on building myself up and building that inner value. And in high school, that's when this Sigma male game, or the Sigma male essence, started to really unfold, and I saw it for what it was. For example, I got into sports, which is why I always say to the young guys, get into sports, because it not only builds your mentality, it builds also your body, and it also builds your image. Because when I was in high school, I got into swimming and taekwondo, and I was like varsity teams in both of them at the same time, while also doing studies. So studies is already something that's not easy. You pair that with one sport, it's already hard, because you gotta study from 8 in the morning until 4, and then 4 you gotta wait 2 hours until 6. 6 is the training until roughly 8 in the evening. That's when I train. But then I was varsity of 2 teams, so then I had to schedule my time in such a way where I could train for both of them. Sports personally built a stoic mindset, something that is seen as very highly attractive to women. Stoic mindset basically is built how? Sports is not easy. You gotta do lots of reps. You gotta do lots of practices. It's painful. But you want results. You put off the short-term pleasure for the long-term goals. You tell your bitch voice or your emotions and your feelings no. You sit in the corner, you shut your mouth, because I'm gonna do this either way. And when you're competing, it's one thing to do sports. Yes, it's one thing to go to the gym, but when you actually do competition, when you go to tournaments, which I've done multiple times, you have to face being nervous, you have to face anxiety, because if you're like the bastards of my coach, the coaches that I had for swimming, they put me in events that were not on my forte. They put me, for example, in 1,500 meters freestyle, which is 30 laps on an Olympic-sized pool. 30 laps! Fuckers. And they wanted me to race. 30 laps is fine if you're doing it at a leisurely pace, but 30 laps racing. I was there sitting, sweating my bollocks off, thinking about the pain that would come in the future. I was worried. But then, that pain, and I was thinking to myself, I'd rather be in school than be here right now. That's funny. Most people would rather skip school. Me, I was saying I would rather be in school studying, boring, sitting on the chair than here now, facing all of this anxiety because I have to swim something, I have to do something that I don't like to do in front of more than 500 people spectating. So that's how you build the Stoic mindset. Whatever feelings you have, whatever worries you have, whatever anxiety you have, you tell yourself, no. Worry, we all do things for a better life, right? We all do things for a better life. You work out for a better life. You work for a better life. You study for a better life. So why do you have to worry? Because if you worry, you are kind of decreasing the quality of your own life. You want a better life, but you're worrying, therefore you're decreasing your own life. Doesn't matter. Doesn't make sense. The thing also with sports or doing whatever extracurricular activities, I trained myself or I built the habits of being genuinely busy. You see, all of these pickup artist tricks and tips, they always say, oh, don't message the girl too fast. Oh, don't, not too fast. Don't be too available. And people actually do that. What are you gonna do? Most guys would, they would put a timer on the side. The girl messages them and then they put the timer, boop, okay, let me wait for 3 hours and then I will respond to her. That's stupid. Instead of waiting 3 hours, do something with your life 3 hours. And that's why when I got into sports, I was genuinely busy. And I was always kind of aloof. Because when girl would say, oh, you want to hang out later? I'm like, I'm sorry, I gotta go train. Or maybe they're looking around for me somewhere and I'm gone because I was actually in a tournament. So they know that there was always something that was happening in my life. But this is one of the foundational things that you have to keep in mind. When I was doing sports, I won a lot of medals, I won a lot of awards. I was swimming against different countries in Southeast Asia, different schools, and I won. I always stayed humble. I didn't puff my chest up. I didn't speak super loud. I lived a normal life. I was quiet in class and girls would ask me, hey, why don't you speak more? Or you're too quiet. Or, oh, come sit next to me. I want to talk with you. I want to get to know more about you. And that's when the intrigue happened. And there was even a little fan club on the side that I did not know of until I left the school. That there was a little fan club fanning over me, which is kind of funny. I felt proud on the inside, but I didn't really tell, like, oh, look, I have a personal fan club. Doesn't matter. I was conquering my goals. If I wanted to, I could have a relationship with one girl at a time for every single month of the year. But I didn't. I just wanted to build my inner value. And this is also a funny thing that you have to keep in mind, is that how a fan club over you will develop is word of mouth. It's like marketing. They call this pre-selection in the red pill sphere. When one girl fans over you, another girl looks at her and says, like, why is she fanning over this guy? Like, why does she like this guy so much? Maybe she'll ask that girl, or she'll try to find out. She'll do her research over you and realize, like, fuck, this guy studies well. He does sports. He does another sport. He gets medals, so he's not just doing the sport, but he actually achieves something in life. So that's like, oh, fuck, this guy is actually good. He stands out from the rest. And so she joins a fan club, and then her friends will start to see, like, oh, what's going on? And then the friend will start to do the research and rinse, wash, repeat until the fan club starts to build. It's the same thing with actors. It's the same thing with musicians. It's the same thing with artists. Starts out with one girl, and then that girl will build the fan base for you. Pre-selection, word of mouth. But then again, as I said in the beginning, not all girls will like you. You must be valuable in the eyes of the girl that you want. So if you want to develop yourself, if you want this certain girl, you got to know what she values in life. And then you build yourself up in the value that that girl wants. It's the same thing with products. Some products, people like, oh, I want an iPhone. And then there are other people that don't give a shit about iPhone. They'd rather buy an Android. So you got to understand, it's the same thing. Some people, they like this, some people, they like that. And if you really want the girl, then you understand what she finds valuable and you try to build yourself up on that thing. But then again, as I said, short-term solutions will guarantee short-term results. So you may get the girl, but you may sacrifice your long-term real potential because you may try to upgrade yourself in something that, like, if she likes Dungeons and Dragons, you're gonna do Dungeons and Dragons to try to attract her, and yet you know that you're better at sports. It's kind of stupid on your part, right? It hurts your long term. So you gotta focus on you. You have limited time in a day, 24 hours, that you can choose how you upgrade yourself. Therefore, you cannot be everything to everybody. That's one fact that you gotta get into your head. So that was high school. As I mentioned, I changed schools and I went to a different country. I went to Singapore from the Philippines. So high school was in the Philippines. Then I went to Singapore for like secondary school, junior college. And what I realized was that, Sigma males were rare, were different, no. And the reason why you're different is because you kind of stand out. You're different from the majority. And in Singapore, I noticed this because it's a different culture. Of course, it's still in Asia, but Singaporeans have a different mindset in the nuances than the Philippines has. So there are differences. So me, as a foreigner, I was considered different. And then I saw that how being different and standing out builds mystery and intrigue. So a lot of girls would come and say like, oh, where are you from? Or my name sounds very exotic in Singapore. So they would always ask me like, oh, you look Asian, but then why is your name like that? And then I always had a nice story to tell them, no. And so that it already is a conversation opener. Some people, they wear fancy stuff, or some people, they put something on their hair as a way to open a conversation with a girl. Doesn't always work, but sometimes it does. So you open the conversation with a girl, and then that opens the way to probably getting the number or building a relationship. The funny thing is, like, as I started maturing and then I graduated secondary school, went to junior college, my voice kind of broke. And the first day we had like this orientation day, the people in my orientation group, they were wondering like, fuck, your voice is so nice. So that's one thing. You gotta work with that, what you got, my friend. If you got a good body, work with a good body. If you got a good voice, work with a good voice. If you got facial hair, where most people don't have facial hair, you gotta understand if the culture that you are in, of course, if the women in that culture, the women in that country find that valuable. Because sometimes in Asian countries, they don't really like facial hair. That's a fact. Depends on your face. Or if you're like a white dude with facial hair, nice. If you're an Asian dude with facial hair, eh. So you gotta understand the cultural nuances in the country that you're in. So fast forward to university, I studied hospitality management. So we were all called to wear suits and ties and everything. I only had one suit, one tie, because I didn't want to overspend. And I was using my parents' money at the time. And who wants to drain the parents of their resources, right? As a responsible kid with filial piety, I'm not gonna accept any more than I need to from my parents. It's a disgrace as a man. So I only had one suit and one tie. But there was this guy, an Italian dude, that all the girls were fangirling over because he had different suits for every single day of the week. What the fuck? And a different tie to complement that suit. And a pocket square to complement that suit. Every single day of the week, he would show up with a different combination of suit, tie, and whatever. And all the girls were fangirling over him. And he was a strong, silent type. He was not even overly loud. Like, there was an alpha in the class that was super loud. The girls found him obnoxious. They didn't like him. They found him irritating. They liked that quiet dude. And from then I saw like, oh, cool. So introvert, silent dudes do have a chance. I was not the only one. Silent dudes, even if you don't do sports, because this guy didn't really do sports, he was just calm, collected, with good style. So you gotta work with what you have. Girls are fangirling over him. He already had a girlfriend though. Because there are a lot of components that make you more attractive to women. One, as I mentioned, was building your inner value. But then the second also is building your outer value, how you are perceived by people, your packaging. Because there's this thing in personal marketing, it's an acronym called P.I.E, P-I-E, and they say that your performance, the way that you act, the things that you do, only amounts to 10% of the results that you're gonna get in life. And then there's I, which is image. Image results in 30% of the results that you get in life. Image, how your reputation and everything. And then the last is exposure, E, P-I-E, E, exposure. That results in 60% of the results that you get in life. So it doesn't matter your performance, doesn't really matter your image. It matters your exposure, or how you broadcast yourself. If you broadcast yourself. That's why I said, like, if you're doing something good, make sure people know about it. Doesn't matter. Because if you're the strongest man in the world, but you don't never join the Guinness World Records, or you never put yourself out there, nobody's going to know your name. So it's the same thing here. So that's when I transition to the next level, which is working on my packaging, working on my perceived value, working on that, such as style, buying perfume, fixing my hair, making sure everything's on point, and body language. So yes, I did buy a new suit with the money that I had from internship. I did get new ties. So then I became that Italian guy, but Asian version. So I had not as many suits, but I had like 2 suits, and I had a tie for every single day of the week. So that year in university, I had a relationship, long story short, had a relationship with a Swiss girl. And the Swiss girl, she was almost perfect. This is one of the unicorns that passed through my life and I lost. Mainly because when time came to meet her father, and I met her father, he was disappointed. And he told her straight up that, told her and me in my face that I'm no good for her daughter. And that was quite a big shocker to me, because I was like, well, I do have inner value. I know where I came from. I know the struggles that I went through. How can you call me someone with no value? And then he said, yes, you may have value, you may have potential, but you don't have anything. You don't own anything. How are you going to take care of my daughter? Love does not pay the bills. And then I realized that there are different levels to this game. There are different levels to attraction. You can attract a woman, but you may not be at the level to keep her. That's why you see a lot of young relationships fade. Because the guys realize that love doesn't pay the bills, the women realize that love doesn't pay the bills, and then they have to work, and when they work, they start to drift away. That's why young relationships don't normally last. That's why I said that you as young guys, you gotta put goals over girls. Short-term solutions result in short-term results. Focus on the long term. You gotta put off the short-term gratification for the long-term results, because in the long term, once you're made, once you got your own house, once you got the car, once you got the things that you own as a man, then you're more open to getting the girl, and the girl more probably will join your life. Because when you're younger, what life do you have aside from the life that you're siphoning, the money, that the resources you're siphoning from your parents? Get your own life first, right? So then that led me to the next level, which is it's not only about inner value, it's not only about the perceived outer value, it's also about making myself a made man with stuff that I own. Gosh, I'm looking at the time of this video. I'm gonna have to stop this here. This is gonna be just a part 1. Part 2 will come out soon. So thank you for joining me, my friends. If you do like this, do leave a like. If you learned something, comment your thoughts, and if you haven't already, do subscribe to the channel. There's going to be lots more content coming out in the near future. So, till next time.